been around for 32, almost 33 years. It's a great company. We've built it from 10 people not all that long ago to 32 people today. We continue to grow. We're hiring people all the time. If there's one thing that I could do, like before my time is up at Chapman, it is making sure that we've built a company that will stand the test of time. And my goal as the current owner of the company, or one of the owners of the company, is to ensure that we can pass the ownership of the organization on to the next generation of people coming up the ranks today. One area of our business where we impact the local communities pretty heavily is the school systems. So we work for school systems all over the northern part of the state of New Jersey. We operate their water systems, their wastewater systems. We do a lot of their permitting and compliance work, and we ensure that the water that the kids drink is clean. We go out and do the sampling to ensure that it's not contaminated. And we also treat the wastewater that's being generated at a lot of these facilities as well before it gets discharged to the environment. So we are supporting the local community through supporting the boards of education and the local school systems.
It's a revamp of the entire season. We've been here before, but now it's high speed, high stakes. Race number 2. Live from the virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway, it's the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series, live on V-Speed for the Collision Center of Nashville 195. Welcome in, everybody. I am your host, Bradley Cooper, alongside all season long Alex Gagnon with the co-commentary. Alex, you watched last season here. Fireworks carry right off of Daytona. It's high speed, but it's much more narrow here at this place.
This is, as far as what drafting style tracks are for the Gen 7, this is the kind of place you want to be. This is where handling really comes into effect for these cars, actually generating these large runs where you can make passes to the inside and then you actually get to utilize that draft down the straightaway. A little more reminiscent of some of the restrictor plate style tracks you'd see from a little while back, and it puts a lot more into the hands of the drivers than we saw last week at Daytona.
You can think back to tracks like Auto Club, Michigan, even Texas was one of those tracks that they were considering restrictor plates back in the late 2008, 2009 era, because those cars were getting speeds over 205 miles per hour during practice. And I mean, it's no different here. They upped the banking, they repaved it. These cars are going 185 wide open into turn 1. And that's, you know, after a lap of going around this place, you are side by side for the entirety of this event.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of times, I think, out here tonight where it is going to be really tough to gauge exactly where someone's going to set themselves up in the corner. Those runs going into turn 1 and turn 3, especially turn 3, can be rather drastic and can really be tough to judge if you're not careful.
Get a look at our points here. This is after week number 1. Nick Alves with a phenomenal finish. It came down to the wire, and I want to say it was somewhere around 16 one-thousandths of a second there across the line. It really was a photo finish, and we had contact there across the line, some drivers crashing and wrecking, but ultimately Nick Alves, he sponsored last week. He got the victory.
Yeah, big win for him in the race he's sponsored, and he's going to be sitting atop the point standings here with those 44 points and 1 win. A couple of drivers, though, who got caught up in earlier incidents last week looking to rebound in a big way here tonight.
And with that, now we are going to talk about our race analysis. It's actually, there's Collision Center again, but race analysis, let's try one more time on that button. 130 laps, 45 mile per hour pit road speed limit, 5 tire sets available. So unlike Daytona last week, where tires really didn't matter as much, you saw a lot of fuel only stops. The strategy there was just get on and off pit road as clean as possible with a partner. Here tonight, tire wear will be a factor, and depending on how long we go green, that could be one of those things that make these guys reconsider running the inside or outside line. Maybe they get a little bit loose. They're definitely going to be scrubbing some speed and burning the right side tires off.
Yeah, and a lot of folks in the actual race at Atlanta this weekend were saying how tight it was leaving turn 2 in the setups that they had. I'd imagine we'll be seeing some similar struggles out for the field here today, which could also really eat up the right front depending on how aggressively you try to force your way off the corner in turn number 2.
2 green-white checkered attempts and stage at lap 30 here today. iRacing Fix setup, of course, as always here at Chapman Environmental Services. I thought I fixed my connection, but my brain today is not connected to my mouth, so I apologize for that. But let's take you trackside now, get the grid up on the screen. Starting on the pole here today. Well, there it is, 31.462. Travis Gilbert in the 22 will start on the pole, and that brings you to your Coastal Financial Pole Award. Our mission at Coastal Financial is to provide comprehensive financial planning solutions tailored to each individual's unique needs and goals. With the aim of empowering our clients to make informed financial decisions and achieve their financial potential, you can find us at coastalfinancial.com or on Facebook at Coastal Financial. So let's go on with the grid the rest of the way here. Kyle Diaz will start in the 2nd position. Starting in row number 2, Sam Taylor, Daniel Holloway. Row number 3 goes to Caleb Gilbert, Dustin Reinstedel. Starting in 6th. 7th, Matt Robinson, Morgan Cook. There's your top 10 with John Fike and Nick Alves.
A little farther back, Dylan Picklesheimer, Kevin Orlando Jr. make up row 6. Michael Reed, Trevor Erhardt rolling off 13th and 14th here tonight. Rest of your grid going to be ticking on by the screen here as we are getting ready to take the green flag for the first time here tonight.
So the 195, it's 130 laps here today. And for race number 2 of the official season, 36 plus cars on this racetrack going green from Atlanta. Travis Gilbert, he started on the top spot. The top 3 has not changed hands, and Sam Taylor, Kyle Diaz, and the 54 of Caleb Gilbert all end up single file down this backstretch.
Yeah, everyone's starting to settle in a little bit here. A lot of cars up front diving down to that inside row. That's where they want to be at the moment. Morgan Cook, the only car in that top 10 really who stayed up on the outside, at least of those who could help it. More cars now starting to find their way to the bottom of the racetrack, and it's about a 7-car breakaway up front, all on the inside line as they make their way onto the backstretch once again.
You see working that outside line, you have Morgan Cook, and I think that's Dustin Reinstedel. No, he's actually to the inside, so it'd be Nick Alves. This Ryan changed the paint scheme on me a little bit this week. But he is trying to get Morgan Cook up here, and unlike Daytona, the outside, because you can't get such a run, you can take the entry wide at Daytona and kind of come down and side draft midway through the corner. Here, if you do that, you're going to get really tight. We're talking about the exit. It's really difficult to get off these corners with the car pinched down on your inside. So you kind of got to get that room to keep air on the nose.
If there is one person who's going to be able to find their way to the front here, it is going to be the driver of the 24. There, Nick Al's winner last week at Daytona. And the first points-paying race of the year as things starting to fan out 2 and 3 wide as they make their way through the quad oval. Luckily, everyone keeps it together, but they are going to be almost 3 wide into the corner. Looks like they got settled that back down, the double wide, just in the nick of time.
They are hauling the mail down this backstretch, 187 miles per hour for the front 2 cars. And we have another split here. This is a case of the car getting a little bit tight behind someone else. You saw it with Morgan Cook. He had stepped out, put him 3 wide. And now the 11 of Matt Robinson had the same issue. And it's really difficult as being that car in 3rd in line not to try to fill that hole. It's such a dramatic checkup. And I saw it last night when I was doing the broadcast for QSR. There's a lot of problems where guys weren't expecting that, and they would get into the back of one another.
Yeah, I have a feeling that we are going to see more and more things like that as this race progresses, as far as just cars getting into the back of one another when they start getting stacked up and starting to lift less and less when they take those runs. The caution's out for the first time here tonight. I believe it's something deeper in the field. Although what, I'm not entirely sure. Oh, that looks terminal there for Michael Call. That looks not good. That looks like the engine may have blown.
Definitely smoking as he came across that quad oval. He was only down 4 positions here, but looks like a single car incident. We'll go back on our instant replay, try to figure out what happened to Michael Call. Now this is going to happen through the quad oval. This is down the backstretch. You see the 10 there in the middle of Kyle Stewart. They were 3 wide in front of him, almost all the way down the backstretch, and this might be where it starts. Somebody here on the 3 wide gone wrong.
Yeah, they're going 3 wide there. I mean, and this deep in the field, this early in the race, doesn't feel great. And yeah, just gets tagged there, coming down into that 3 wide situation, trying to figure out who that was. Wow, lucky to avoid getting caught up in that.
I think that was Michael Reed. No, maybe Christopher Schaefer. Yes, we'll go on board with him.
On board with the 23. This is going to be a terrifying look. You can see just how far back he was. And I believe it may have been Cameron King who got tied up there with the 89.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, you see Schaefer coming down, and then the last second call dives out of the way. Good thing from Schaefer as well, just to shuffle up just enough to get out of the way. So, yeah, Cameron King getting tied up there with Michael Call off of turn 4. He was going down to try to follow the line that cars have been running through that quad oval, but with a car below the 89, he wasn't able to dive down, so he was trying to take a wider line. And that disagreement put them both in the fence.
What I've seen a lot here, and last week we were talking about it, some of these guys were talking about the red line rule. Some leagues have actually implemented that you can't cut below that line just to prevent people from cutting it all the time, and then one time they don't. I know for me, I've been involved at tracks like Las Vegas with the tri-oval where guys will, cut and some won't, and it kind of throws you off because you're expecting it. You get to a certain point that it hypnotizes you, and so you naturally take that line expecting them to cut, and you end up taking them out.
And that's very much what we saw there, so the field, just as they were starting to get strung out a little bit, going to get stacked right back up here for our first caution of the night. Everything up front has been handily controlled at the moment by the 22 of Travis Gilbert.
Here's the
Gilbert, I believe, the pole sitter last week as well. I mean, he's had some really good speed in qualifying, just had some bad luck last week at Daytona, trying to get some redemption for that. And he's surrounded by a couple of cars in that vicinity who are also looking for bit of redemption here, most notably that car directly behind him, Kyle Diaz, coming up 0.06 of a second short last week. A couple of cars with something to prove here tonight.
And we've talked about how this is so relatable to Daytona. Some of these guys come in here and they use these races as an opportunity to lock themselves into the playoffs. That style of when you're in, I would say Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta are one of those tracks that, you know, anybody can get it done. It's just surviving the initial carnage, and we're almost guaranteed more of that here in Atlanta. These guys are very talented. We're not taking anything away from them, but this is a very tough racetrack, and the way it drives, you're just amplifying all of the bits that we saw at Daytona times 10.
And yeah, and this is one of those things where since the repave, there is not a track on the schedule that drives like this place. There is not a restrictor plate track that is this small anywhere else on the Chapman Cup Series slate. So this is really kind of a once-a-season opportunity to try to get this one right, and we'll see who is able to make that happen. Is getting into the restart zone. Travis Gilbert is going to launch them all off here into turn one once again.
22 gets quite the jump out there. 54 has no help, though. They all go to the inside to follow the 22.
Yellow's out.
Diaz, and it's already come out.
Something way back in the field again. This time it's Carter Linz.
Green 66 goes around. Doesn't look like he picked up any damage from this, but it was enough to trigger a caution. Maybe minimal damage on the right front. I don't really see anything that sticks out here.
Yeah, I don't know if he really hit the wall all that hard, but I do think he got turned around. And I think pointing the wrong way up on the high side there was not going to be too kind to not go in the yellow. You see, he's restarting here from around the 22nd position and just contact with Alex Bourget. Yeah.
And Berube probably got a little bit better start. Goes to the outside. I know that you're frustrated, Alex, that you're this deep in the field. Let's run him here for a couple miles before we try that.
And it's tough because, like, he did have a run and he did get to the outside, but also on the restart, especially when everyone's closing up to the fence like that, I don't know how much of an expectation there is with the cars around you to expect someone to try to make that move. So I see where the 19 was trying to capitalize on that run because he definitely got a better restart than the 66, but just nowhere to take that run. And it ultimately leads to a disagreement between the two. Quite a few takers, though, for pit road. This very long pit road entry at Atlanta, having to start all the way back at the entrance to turn 3. Grant Thorpe going to leave about 6-7 cars down pit road this time around.
We were talking about that race analysis. Stage at lap 30, so this is right around that halfway mark. If you could top off of fuel, maybe you could afford to not come down pit road. And guys like Berube, Alex Bourget, kind of deep in this field, you can tell he's frustrated. Come in, top off with fuel here. When that stage caution happens and the rest of the field comes down, you can stay out.
Yeah, and this is an opportunity this early in the race to try to get off sequence with a lot of the cars up at the front of the field and try to make something happen. As we see, I believe it's the 89 of Michael Call trying to take the wave around here in a minute. So Travis Gilbert will still be your leader. Kyle Diaz will be, or at least lines up second here, depending on where he decides to go on the choose. But very start and stop opening to this race, Bradley. Been tough for any of these drivers to really settle into a rhythm with us having to do our third restart or our third start here, kind of in about 15 laps or so.
So I almost caught you, Nick. I almost caught you. I don't know what was going on, but you were AFK. We had a chair stream there for a moment. Must have had a bathroom break on pit road here.
Well, he's currently scored, or he's coming off of pit road now. Yeah, maybe that is. Well, I'll say I thought he was still actively on the track, but no, he was on pit road and was for a moment or so. Never a dull moment here in the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series.
Never. Well, if you think that was interesting, we're about to see another 15 laps here when we go back green. Travis Gilbert, John Fike up 7 spots here on the front row. And with that choose cone, some of these guys electing to take the inside, it seems to be working out well. They get a pretty substantial jump. And for the 22, 26, and 54, they have kind of singled guys out. They don't choose to go with them. And we've seen a number of drivers fall out on the outside.
Yeah, and it really seems to have been a battle so far where cars are immediately trying to fight down to the bottom if they can do so, especially up front, which is why we're seeing so many cars up in that lead group try to get down to the inside lane when we get going, and cars who are deeper in the field will take that choose. They get the track position, at least for the restart. They've not been able to do much with it here, at least in the couple samples that we've seen to this point. So John Fike, going to be the next contender here on the outside, going to try to lead that group up toward the front. The first 2 attempts here for the outside have not been that successful, but perhaps the 65 going to be able to turn that luck around here. He's got Dylan Picklesheimer behind him, as they'll be doing one more lap under pacing here. They needed an extra lap to try to get this field stacked back up. They were still a little bit separated last time around.
One more lap, and that will officially put us at that 15-lap mark for this run. Again, lap 30 for this stage caution. Travis Gilbert has led, I believe, every single lap. I don't think anyone's taken it away from him here.
I don't believe so.
Maybe one lap, I think. Nope. Yeah, it's all 14 that we've completed.
Yeah, with us being now starting lap 15. It's been all Travis Gilbert up front here, which is exactly the way you'd imagine he'd like to draw it up. Especially with this not being a super long green flag run. No one saving more fuel than him in the draft pack. He's in good shape right now as they make their way to the stage break in about 15 laps or so.
He has help behind him with the 26 of Kyle Diaz. They have kind of singled guys out on this outside, and I expect to see the same for this restart. Third time today, the iRacing pace car will go out of the way. See Gilbert, Pike, Diaz, and Picklesheimer up here in the top 2 rows. 35. Trying to get a couple more spots. He only needs 3 more. He's up 7. It'll put him up 10 if he can get up there and get this stage win. Let's go green flag racing. Pace car out of the way. And here we go back from Atlanta for race number 2 of the regular season. Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series back underway.
Good launch again for the inside. John Fike going to drop right on down to be the 3rd car there on the inside row. Jumping ahead of Caleb Gilbert in line. And immediately, those leaders on the outside, 1st and 3rd on the outside lane, fighting their way down to the bottom. Kind of leaves Picklesheimer out to dry a little bit. You see on the back bumper here of Travis Gilbert, a little bit of a push from Kyle Diaz as they make their way off of turn 4.
There's Morgan Cook back on the outside again, but this time starting even further back where he moved to the outside. He's back in 8th, 9th position. It's going to take 2 or 3 laps under green to even get up to this top 5. It's so momentum based up here on this high line. Eventually, cars are going to overheat. And that's another factor that we talked about at Daytona. It's the same case here with 39 of Grant Turner giving the push to Morgan Cook.
Yeah, really laying into the back bump for the 51 here through the quad oval. He's trying to make something happen on the outside. They just continue to give up ground, though, to the inside. You see Sirkovich and Holloway start to make some gap up on the 51. They get a little bit of it back on the back straightaway, but you just lose so much time through the corners on the high side right now. Speaking of, what it's like, you see there the foot cam there for Grant Turner. The toes are out. Not really, they got the socks on, but you see what it's like trying to work the throttle and the brake here at Atlanta. A little bit more active than it was at Daytona. You see a little bit more brake, a little bit more throttle control, trying to manage the gaps up, and you'll see him, especially going into 3 here. Watch the adjustment he'll have to make. A lot of throttle control there, trying to keep in line, especially with Sirkovich popping up.
As he moves down, Morgan Cook actually moves to the bottom line here. Turner is going to get up to the back bumper. Sirkovich trying to get him up. Gained really minimal. He actually was losing ground. Fell back to 11, so I think that's why he dropped down. It just isn't working here on the outside right now.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued by the decision there for Sirkovich to jump to the high side. He had gained close to 15, 16 spots by kind of hanging down low and working his way up through the field. Now jumping high, he's lost several positions, and they are falling back. He's back down to 14th. He was running as high as 9th a couple laps ago when he was down on the inside. So took a chance trying to lead that outside lane, but does not seem like that outside group is stacked up enough to really make a run toward the front. You see him battling here with Trevor Erhardt, and that is the battle for the 13th position.
A little bit of a gap there between Morgan Cook and the 51. Parker Johnston down on the bottom. This is just outside the top 10. I mean, you can ill afford to go to this high line right now. If it's not working, it's not working. And for the top 10, they have single filed out and continued to pull away from the outside group. Travis Gilbert uncontested here. He's led every single lap and has Kyle Diaz glued to the back bumper. How long does this last? Do they wait until lap 29 to step out here? Does anyone try to get it going from 4th or 5th back? Matt Robinson looked like he was maybe going to try something there. They fall back in line into 1.
Yeah, I got to imagine part of the reason Travis Gilbert has not been particularly challenged up front at the moment is because he has Kyle Diaz to his back bumper. Those two guys, teammates for Racing for Freedom. So teammates running 1-2 right now, making it a little tougher for those cars behind to try to get stacked up and make a run up against them. Got to imagine if a move does come, it's going to be from 3rd on back, maybe John Fike or Caleb Gilbert. And now them, Taylor, and Bill Picklesheimer, they thought about it for a moment, but only the two of them really stepped out. Taylor continuing to try to run a bit of a middle lane here, just trying to see if anyone's going to go with him. No one that time by outside of Picklesheimer, but looks like 6th and 7th. Starting to try to play around with the lines a little bit here, Bradley, trying to see if they can make something happen, seeing who their friends are as we get toward the stage break.
We're running out of laps here, and it's now 6 laps to go. We've seen with that outside that it takes 2 or 3 laps to gain anything and actually get it going. So if you're the one right now, you're yelling at Picklesheimer, hey, get up on my bumper so when I go to make this move, you're ready to go. He's lagging back here for a run, but I don't think it's going to work quite as well. He needs to be right up on that bumper. From 6th on back, these guys, a little sideways there. I think that was John Fike that almost lost control.
Yeah, Fike a little bit loose through the quad oval, but he's going to nestle back in here behind the 26 of Diaz. It's been a good start to the race here for Fike. Qualified top 10, back in 9th. He's worked his way up to 3rd and has been glued to Kyle Diaz ever since we restarted this race back on lap 16. So about 5 to go. It'll be about 4 to go next time by in this stage. Gilbert, Diaz, Fike, your top 3. No one in this top 5 thinking about stepping out of line, but that outside lane starting to reform a little bit deeper in the field. Starting to get a lot more momentum. You can see he's picking up there with Justice Murphy, that 12th machine who's still stuck a little bit deeper back in 14th. That is where things are starting to pick up, and they're trying to get more and more help as they try to work their way to the front.
Penske number 12, we saw a little bit of that on Monday night as well. Shape things up. It doesn't look like this outside's getting going, and 13 actually pops up in front of him. I think he got tight into the entry of 1. That's another thing that this inside line's going to deal with. Car blinks out there briefly. I think that was the 48. Not sure what's going on with the connection there.
Yeah, Lycan's going to jump up to the high side here. He's now going to try to lead that outside lane. And now that outside group has worked their way back up to about P10 with 2 laps to go in the stage. If they get a little higher up in the field, you got to imagine Taylor and Picklesheimer go with them as they now step out. They're going to try to capitalize on a run here on the 11 of Robinson. Looks like they might have some help from Reinstedt along behind as well. We'll see if Sam Taylor able to generate a run.
Doesn't look like it this time. He stepped out. Nothing happened, but here comes John Fike with the 54 of Caleb Gilbert. Gilbert all over the back bumper, and now for Travis Gilbert, he's going to have to find both lanes.
Big block.
That's a block out of 2. Oh, sideways
Oh,
to
they're
1.
wrecking. Sam Taylor wrecking into the outside wall.
Stay green. 22's around.
Go, Travis Gilbert's around, and Diaz, and Fike. All of the leaders wrecking in 3 and 4. Oh my goodness.
And I think that's going to give this stage here to Matt Robinson.
I'm going back and I'm trying to see who got to the line. It is it's kind of tough to gauge. There's a lot that happened right there. We'll say Matt Robinson. We'll say that's your unofficial top 10 here for the stage break. It was really tough to tell because there was about 4 names that it could have been, and then it ended up, I believe, being none of them.
Well, we'll go through pit stops here, and then we need to go back to we had an initial wreck there with the 1 car of Sam Taylor, and then immediately after that, into the entry of turn 3, the 22 goes around. But now the 26 of Kyle Diaz passes on pit road, so I don't know if Diaz has this or...
I guess it depends on if it's whoever got to the line first or at the time of caution. It looks like iRacing is still trying to sort out the running order, so potentially this goes to Kyle Diaz. If he was passing on pit lane there's probably a reason for it. This is that final lap of the stage. A lot of action we were keeping an eye on here with this big move from Fike to the bottom. Gilbert blocks, but then up here, looks like contact with Taylor and Picklesheimer just ran out of room.
Fan out too.
Yeah, and then up here, Fike just gets a massive piece of Travis Gilbert, puts him up into the fence. That stacks up Diaz, who gets turned off the nose of Caleb Gilbert. Boy, that's just a mess. There's like 3 separate incidents there, all on the same lap.
Let's go back here. Let's back this up about 15 seconds or so. The caution lights are on. I want to see if we can back this up exactly when those caution lights come out. And
miraculously, it doesn't come on there. It's not until this moment here.
Oh, man.
You see the caution light up there, yeah.
Yeah, we gotta slow this down in slow motion. He's sideways drifting, and there's the caution light right there. So I don't know if
and also because that light's coming in the frame from that angle, I don't know if that's the first time it blinked or if, second, third, who knows. If it does kind of look like it's the first time, but I mean, you could just see Fike here gets a huge run on the 22, shoves him into the corner, goes high, block, and then just gets up and under. And there's all she wrote there for the 22 and the 65.
Right there's the caution light. So let's see where the 26 is. I think the 11
looks like it looks like the 11's got it if it's time of yellow. Diaz scored second. I mean, Diaz also getting caught up in that incident with Caleb Gilbert. So damage that needed to be repaired. Lights off on the pace car. Just as we were done digesting all of that, it's ready to rock and roll once again. Daniel Holloway going to be up front here. One of those cars who I believe pit earlier in the race. So he's going to use that flip to get up to the front. Got Caleb Gilbert up there with him. And a couple of new faces up to the front of the field here. Parker Johnson and then Matt Robinson, who may or may not have just won that stage. Unofficially won it until I hear otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know if it's based off time of caution. We'll have to get more information on that. I hate to call it again here, but based off of what I saw, the 11 was ahead. Green flag out, though. Here comes stage number 2 from Atlanta for the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series presented by Racing Revolution.
To make their way off the corner, Holloway gonna lead him down the backstretch. Parker Johnson giving him a shove or two. They roar into turn 3. 2 cars clear on the inside lane. Caleb Gilbert and Trevor Erhardt picking up the battle for third, side by side off of 4.
On board with Caleb Gilbert. Seen the 54 to the outside a couple different times. He's been up front for a lot of this. You got some new names up here, mixing it up. Johnson, Trevor Erhardt up to third. It's the first time that we've seen outside actually contest these front runners. They're hanging with them in the second position.
Yeah, you see they are hanging in the mix here. There's still a good bit of support on the high side. Robinson, Turner, Orlando, Harrison, all stacked up really nicely on the front straightaway. Gave them a really good bit of momentum to carry into turn 1 here. Erhardt laying on a bit of a side draft as we'll jump a little deeper in the field on board with Nick Alves. And you can see just how chaotic it's going to get in this mid-pack. When you see this many cars in front of you and everyone's snaking around, it is very, very difficult to anticipate the next move. And it's really hard to see what happens beyond just the car in front of you.
That's another
that
factor.
we do. That, I believe, might be the 65. It's one of those cars who was down a lap, who's trying to get back onto the track here. Now, it's not the 65, but someone is caught out of position here. Going to be in a really bad spot when they go roaring past. They just, the lap car better hope they don't catch him in the quad oval. That's the worst place that you'd be able to catch him. Anywhere else, you have at least a fighting chance.
I would highly advise that this car pulls to the apron.
Here comes the field roaring at pace.
You are tied to the tracks right now. That's the 35.
Still in Picklesheimer. Picklesheimer might end up running into some of these folks here in the quad oval. That's the last place you want to be.
I would get
Here
down
comes
as
Caleb
low
Gilbert
as
and company.
possible. He doesn't.
He gets down to the line, but not to the apron. Everyone going to go up and around. Are they going to get off at turn 2? Okay.
Get down to the
Oh
apron.
boy. It's real tight in that mix. Picklesheimer going to pick up the draft somewhere in the middle of that bottom line. But the leaders had to snake on around, and that did give the opportunity for Caleb Gilbert to go up and over the hill. He's your new leader here from Atlanta.
It's always it's always dramatic when a lap car tries to file back into the pack, and he did it okay, but man, that is dangerous.
You do what you need to do, but yeah, that was a tense moment for sure. Not only for the front of the field, but also for him. I mean, when the cars are coming at you that fast, you kind of just buckle up and hold on and hope no one runs into you. On board here with Jeremy Burns, just outside the top 10, about as high as he's run all evening. He's working his way up through the field, just behind Carter Linz there. But been a bit of a quiet start here for the driver of the 9. Started all the way back in the 24th position.
So they're letting me know that they can barely hear me here, so I'm gonna bump this microphone up a little bit. See if that takes care of it. You know, with Windows updates, occasionally you have some of those issues where things change on the sound. So Richard say, thank you for the sound check there in the chat. But I think what it is mostly is that we have 600 plus horsepower times 40 thundering around here in Hampton.
Yeah, they are absolutely flying right now, and they are not giving each other any room to breathe as people were all out of sorts off of 4. Somebody clipped the wall going in the 1. That might have been the 27. If not, it was the 45. One of those cars up at the front clipped the wall. Grant Turner, their new leader, the outside got a great run. And all of a sudden here, about 40-some laps in, Bradley, the outside line not only looking competitive, but dare I say, maybe the preferred line at the moment.
Looking quite well. Grant the toes. Turner takes over the top spot. He has the lead. He'll get another lap led. And Caleb Gilbert to his outside right now as they go into 1 and 2. Actually tucked in behind him. That was the 27 of Kevin Orlando Jr. And just behind him, Tyler Harrison trying to get things going. They're falling back now. It looks like just certain cars, certain groups not working. That's dangerous here into 3.
Yeah, the contact into 3 is tough. The contact to the middle of 3 also. Harrison not giving Orlando Jr. any opportunity to breathe right now, just shoving him around this racetrack, trying to will the 2 of them to the front of this field. And that's what happens when you have these large spoilers on the back of the car. So much drag gets created that lead car just does not have the power that some of those cars deeper into the draft field will have. So that's why you see cars like the 45 being able to place that many shots on the 27 lap after lap with less air hitting their own spoiler in that draft line. Is just shoving the 27 up toward the front here, and he's getting close. He's almost alongside the 39 of Grant Turner here as Caleb Gilbert steps out for a little bit of side drafting action here through 1 and 2. Really going to hold up the momentum of the 27.
You can hear the RPMs pick up a little bit there on the 27. As Tyler Harrison gives him another shot down the back stretch. They're going to have a really good run here coming out of 4, but Harrison gets disconnected. That's not what you want. It's not going to be enough momentum. Turner with another lap led here on lap 46.
We've got ourselves a really good little battle for the lead. Oh, into the wall. Cars scattering to get out of the way. And that is... No, we're going to... there's no way we can stay green. Forget slides through the field. And now the yellow's out. Alex Forget Berube into the inside wall. Michael Call getting shuffled out as well. Looks like Kyle Stewart, John Fike potentially involved as well. But that started all the way at the front of the field. Kevin Orlando Jr., I believe, got clipped by a car on the inside lane. Gets shot up into the fence. And then it all kind of unraveled from there.
Right front suspension on the 27. Inoperable. So there's the contact with the wall. Back this up one more time. This is where all these cars fan out. And we'll go to the blimp camera. I think it's going to be the best angle. There's the clip from the 11 that put the 27 into the wall. And then Alex Forget gets pinched and squeezed from the checkup. 13 gets a piece of it. That's out.
So did the
Likens.
98 of McGeorge.
Yeah.
Yeah, Likens, Kyle Stewart's around. Michael Call nearly lost it trying to get around that mess. And yeah, the 19 just ran out of room, gets down into the 98 up into the fence. Likens with some front end damage. Looks like Serkovich got a piece of the wall too. More cars initially anticipated, I think, got caught up in the aftermath of that. It looked like at first everyone was going to get around that okay, but Likens was, or not Likens, sorry. That is on board with, I'm completely drawing a blank here.
That is Al Likens, actually. You were right.
Oh, okay.
You got it.
Sorry, I was looking down at McGeorge, I think, and I got mistaken. But yeah, Likens just running out of room. They almost got through that okay, Bradley, and just coming off the corner, just a little bit of pinching will cause a good number of cars to have to go down pit road and get some damage repaired.
Well, with that, we are on another caution. 4 caution, 6 lead changes here from Atlanta. You are watching the Chapman Cup Series live on V-Speed, the Collision Center of Nashville, 195. More coverage continues right after this.
Chapman's been around for 32, almost 33 years. You know, it's a great company. We've built it from 10 people not all that long ago to 32 people today. We continue to grow. We're hiring people all the time. If there's one thing that I could do, like before my time is up at Chapman, it is making sure that we built a company that will stand the test of time. And my goal as the current owner of the company, or one of the owners of the company, is to ensure that we can pass the ownership of the organization on to the next generation of people coming up the ranks today. One area of our business where we impact the local communities pretty heavily is the school systems. So we work for school systems all over the northern part of the state of New Jersey. We operate their water systems, their wastewater systems. We do a lot of their permitting and compliance work, and we ensure that the water that the kids drink is clean. We go out and do the sampling to ensure that it's not contaminated. And we also treat the wastewater that's being generated at a lot of these facilities as well before it gets discharged to the environment. So we are supporting the local community through supporting the boards of education and the local school systems.
Here we are back live from Atlanta. Race number 2 of the regular season for the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series. And it's Daniel Holloway, Caleb Gilbert for this restart. Pace car pulls off. We've had 4 cautions. One of those a stage, but it was an actual caution. We've kind of piled them up here. Let's see if the carnage continues, or can we run the remaining 70 laps or so, 80 laps or so under green.
Holloway going to jump out front with Justice Murphy and Caleb Gilbert. Both of those cars in second and third have already been caught up in some earlier incidents tonight. They have rebounded in a big way here to get back up in front of the field. We're on board here with Daniel Holloway, looking off the rear mirror, seeing Justice Murphy in a spot that he was in on the final lap of Daytona last week. In second off of 4, trying to make the move. Him and Rob Rader come together. The two of them end up getting sideways off the corner, finishing in the top 10, but neither are going to be able to contend for a win last week. And you got to imagine the 12 looking to rebound in a big way here if he's able to make that happen. Not going to want to get caught up in the same situation twice.
Yeah, I think he'll be a little more defensive there. Last week, he thought maybe he had the run and didn't pinch anybody, didn't try to block anything. Ended up getting turned there across the tri-oval. It didn't hurt him too bad on the finish, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I don't think it benefited either one of them to have contact. I think it was just throw it in there as hard as you can and see what happens. It's thankfully these guys don't have to pay for these things. Otherwise, I don't think that would have happened.
Yeah. Murphy went up off 4 around Rader. Rader and him make contact. Both of them get shuffled back a little bit. And, you know, here we are a week later. Murphy running in P2, and Rob Rader, who we have not really talked a lot about tonight, the leader of the outside lane as they run. As we're on board there briefly with Caleb Gilbert. You see there's Rob Rader in the 53. He had to come from way back in the field tonight, started 30th. He's up to 13th, now making 11th as they make their way across the stripe. Door to door with his teammate, Jeremy Burns right now. The 53, trying to find his way to the front of the field for the first time really all evening long.
And then just in true fashion, you mentioned teammate. And right on cue, Jeremy Burns moves to the high line. They're going to try to get something going to this top 10.
Yeah, they've gotten connected here on the high side. We've got a decent push going as well from Michael Reed. We jump on board here with Jeremy Burns, seeing what he's seeing out of that windshield. And what he's seeing right now is a whole lot of open racetrack on his lane, but a host of cars on the inside that he's going to have to try and overcome. Currently scored in the 11th position, trying to track down Michael Bennett. That's that 14 from the yellow and blue car.
Ron Rader has been all over the bumper for a mile and a half. Glued to the back end. This is where teammates are the factor. You haven't seen that with some of these guys that aren't comfortable racing with each other. Rader actually goes up into the wall there. Burns kind of hung it out a little wide on the exit, and that's going to cost him a little bit of time. And moving up in front of Burns, I think it's the 24 of Nick Alves.
Yeah, last week's winner going to make a jump to the high side here. He's going to want to lead that outside lane, and what we saw happen to Burns there was exactly what we've seen happen to a number of drivers so far tonight. Sometimes, you know, you push that throttle a little too hard getting off of 2, the car gets a little tight, and you're just not able to reel the thing back in. And him running high kind of took that entire high side all the way up toward the fence there last time around. We'll jump a little deeper in the field. This is on board with Morgan Cook, running in 22nd at the moment, about 7th or 8th car on the outside lane. And this is that part of the race where there's just really nowhere to go when you're stuck in this part of the track. You just kind of pick a line and hope that's the one that advances, because you are kind of marred in with traffic here.
But it's just so turbulent back here, Alex. It's really hard to get a feel if you're even getting any momentum. You'll get past, you can see progress for a couple positions, but now a car moves up in front of Nick Alves because they saw that progress. That's going to halt all of this. So now Morgan Cook is stuck next to the 77. It's just one car after another moving up to the outside line, and eventually it goes stagnant.
Yeah, so now Cameron King going to lead that high side here on the 93 machine. So back in 33rd today. He's currently scored in P10. We'll see if anyone decides to try to jump in front of him, if this outside lane is able to maintain that kind of momentum. So more and more takers jumping high, but that just seems to be opening the door more and more for cars on the inside to try to get a run. So we're on board here with King. He's battling with Justin Ritchie right now. You see this outside lane, well, I guess more the middle lane at the moment, through the corner. A lot of side drafting between the two. It's really kind of halting the progress for both sides.
You see that little bit of a check up there too as Nick Alves gets a little bump draft into the entry of 3. If you can't stay glued to the back bumper of the 93, you send him in there. That keeps him stagnant, keeps him side by side. But how many times can you hit the back end of this 93 before you try to go around them? They're continuing to lose ground, fall back to 9th, might fall back to 10th. You're right back where you started. It's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, and that's the thing at this stage of the race. You just have to try to keep your head down and keep working your way to the front with whatever's around you. No matter who's working ahead of you, behind you, or next to you, just kind of keep finding a way to shuffle your way toward the front. On board here with Michael Bennett in the 14. He started all the way back in 38th. You'd think he's our biggest mover of the race, but that would actually go to the car 2 ahead of him. That is Christopher Berger up there in the 36th. Started 39th. He's up to P6. So he's done a great job here through some race pace and some strategy calls to get himself in track position, and is in a really good spot now from where he qualified.
Look at the guys that have recovered or done well. The 66 of Carter Lynch just behind him. Remember, we saw that car sideways into the outside wall in turn 1 just a moment ago. He is just inside the top 10, running 9th right now. We are seeing progress still on this outside line that's going to maybe settle him back a couple positions. We'll have to wait and see if this bottom is actually going to prevail. 93 now up to about the 6th position as they come out of turn 4. A lot of headway. It took a while. I said it takes 2 or 3 laps. Now I'll move to the outside. I think unintentional, but Justice Murphy is going to go for it, and they fan out everywhere. Caleb Gilbert behind the 12.
They basically just hung out Daniel Holloway, the drive. hung him out to dry as Murphy there took a really misplaced shot there from Caleb Gilbert, nearly got them both out of sorts. So now everything's stacked up at the front, and we are 2-by-2 again here as they make their way toward the start-finish line. Just past the halfway point of tonight's race, and Daniel Holloway, Justice Murphy, gloves are off. And the battle is commencing 3 wide through the corner.
Big checkup on the inside line. Everyone heads up move there to not get in trouble, but they're still brushing the wall. There's still a lot happening back in the back of the field. That's the 35 down to the apron. He's going to come down pit road. It happens so quick here. Like I said, it's everything times 10 at Daytona. You saw the checkup, and usually guys have a chance to react. Here, it is so quick. You have nowhere to go. There's no runoff in this racetrack. There's no lane to choose to avoid a car. It's wall, apron, or the guy in front of you.
Yeah, none of those are particularly good options when the checkup begins. You see now Alves dropping to the bottom, trying to get under Cameron King. King got as high as second, but Alves going to bail on him. Burns and Rader also got to the low side, so Caleb Gilbert leads. And he has got a host of friendly. Oh boy, Cameron King getting sucked to the middle. Oh, he tried going high, and Grant Thorpe into the wall. Everyone getting stacked up behind him, also into the fence. That was a tough situation there, and that is going to kill the momentum of at least 8 cars.
Grant Thorpe actually had to shift down a gear. He hit the wall so hard. Replay on board with the 77 and just nowhere to go.
Yeah, and that's a matter of 93. Saw he was getting dropped to the middle, was trying to find a place to jump in line, and just kind of mistimed it with the 77 coming in at that speed. And has really kind of shuffled it. And just as we were getting a really big group of side-by-side action, kind of really stringle-filed everything out, everyone trying to settle back in and be like, okay, that was a lot, and we're lucky that wasn't worse. So everyone trying to get comfortable here as we see Travis Gilbert, the pole sitter, way back in the field. He's trying to get back up into this lead group, but he has got some work to do here. He's got Devin Hudgens, his teammate, with him. The two of them here are uncharacteristically far back in this field right now.
Well, you remember just before that stage break, the 22 comes across the nose of the 11, I believe it was, and a lot of damage. He's got most of it repaired, but still not quite up to par. You can see that he's also in a situation of, I'm deep in this field now because I had to repair all of that damage to my car. There's really zero reason to get up here in the thick of this field and risk getting more damage and possibly totaling this car out.
Yeah, and it's especially tough. I mean, Travis Gilbert has had a tough week and a half here so far this season to this point. Pole sitter last week got caught up in an incident, did not get the points he was hoping for out of that one. This time around, pole sitter once again. And part of that wreck with the 65, John Feig, as they were coming to the line. Didn't get the stage points for that, I don't believe. Or at least not as many as he had, because he was leading on that last lap. And now stuck with damage deeper in the field. I mean, it has been a tough sled so far for the 22 between Daytona and Atlanta.
Now we're watching the 5th position with Michael Reed in the 91. Looking back at the 77 of Grant Thorpe, getting the outside line going. They've now worked up to the top 5. Going to continue on. Remember, Thorpe got into the outside wall when the 93 came up the track a little bit, and they went 3 wide. 77 recovered nicely and now finds himself just outside that top 5, trying to push Reed to the top spot.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal recovery here for Grant Thorpe. Didn't think he was going to be able to make that work, and yet here we are. I mean, despite how hard he hit the wall, he's made the right moves to get himself back in position, back in contention here on lap 75. But I tell you, the thing that stands out to me more than anything right now is of this front group. All 4 of them, I believe, are, or at least all the top 3 at the moment, are teammates. Top 4 if you count Rader there. Everyone on that inside group
Yeah.
Gilbert, Alves, Burns, and Rader. All of those guys running for OMT, I believe, so, or not OMT, Performance Motorsports. So they have found the help that they are looking for, and they are making something happen right now.
Well, when you go green like this, it's easy to try to negotiate that. You start moving lines. You try to work together and eventually put yourself in a situation. And if we're under caution, you can't pass, right? So you're constantly stuck in the position you're in. And with the choose cone, maybe you get left out. You can't line up with your teammates. There's a number of factors that kept these guys apart. But now that we've had about 10, 15 laps under green, a little more than that, it's easier to find that teammate's bumper. They're going to have to start working even harder, though, here in just a moment, because the 91 of Michael Reed and the 77 of Grant Thorpe have found the recipe, and they're starting to blast up here to the front.
Yeah, and they're doing so with not a whole ton of support on the outside here. They've got some cars, but they're not overly stacked up. But Michael Reed continues to be gaining ground on the leaders. You see he's side by side for third right now. Grant Thorpe really laying into the back bumper of the 91, giving him a nice push down the back straightaway. We're on board here, I believe, with Jeremy Burns. You see the 91 falling back just a little bit, and I think that's because the outside just not as structured at the moment as the inside lane is. Grant Thorpe has been providing a really good push, but they could use some help from Likens or Keith to try to get up there. Now Thorpe bails out and drops to the bottom. And I think that's going to drop the 91 back a spot or two here toward Al Likens.
I think right now we're 30 laps on this stint. We're approaching pit stops. There you now see with the 39 leading them down into pit road. That commitment line to the pits changed. Remember back when this track first got its revamp on iRacing, they could come down pit road the old-fashioned way. It was, for lack of a better word, almost suicidal to come in at that angle, and you would see cars totaled almost instantly. They've since changed that to the entry of turn 3, and I like that call.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense without cars trying to get off the throttle still on the racetrack off of 4. So you do lose more time when you pit. That's something I know the drivers are frustrated with, but it's definitely less likely to end up in a wrecked race car, which is good for all parties involved at the end of the day. And this also thins out this front group a little bit, as those are a lot of the cars who are pitting off cycle from those who maybe stayed out all the way to the stage break. But you see a few more takers here. Looks like Nick Alves, Rader, Burns, all of the Performance Motorsports folks looking like they're trying to get down pit road here.
That was commitment there by the 54 that we were riding on board with. He drove it deep into 3 before he got on the brakes, and now gets it woed up. This is the commitment line, but now we're at pit road speed. This is where you have to woe it down to 45 miles per hour. So that runoff, it almost feels like you're trying to land a 747.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, you're carrying a lot of speed, and these things aren't light. You know, it takes a lot of effort to get these things to turn and to slow down simultaneously. Looks like everyone's able to get it sorted. You see cars into their box getting tires changed, fueling up, ready for the back half of this event. It also really shuffled up the front. There's Daniel Holloway.
Two cars still on the track here by themselves.
Yeah. And it's the 36 of Christopher Berger, who I believe had already come down, because here's the last group.
It's 91 into pits. We also got, we got some black flags. Michael Reed actually has a black flag, so he's going to be held here for 30 seconds on pit road. And he's going to watch all these cars around him leave.
And that's incredibly devastating, because with this being under green, he's not going to have any help out there, and he's going to lose an entire another lap, because lap times here are only about 30 seconds. You see, he might be able to leave with 21 of Daniel Holloway when this penalty's done, but devastating to Michael Reed. He was as high as third at one point in this race.
Now that this is all cycled out, that'll give the 54 the lead. 22 is going to end up losing a lap now. That was your pole sitter and the guy that led the vast majority of stage 1. Didn't get the stage win and has since been playing catch up. This is just going to add insult to injury. Justice Murphy Got some news here. The 12 off the track behind the wall.
Yeah, he was out briefly. He may be trying to get that thing repaired and back on track, but for now, yeah, he's more or less out of contention for the win here tonight. You see the folks up front here, Caleb Gilbert, Nick Alves, Jeremy Burns, they did a great job with their pit stops to get back out in front. And then Carter Linz did a great job to go with him here. So he'll be the car that'll eventually work his way into fourth. He sits there now, but trying to pull up to those 3 cars in front of him in the draft. And we're seeing some new faces in the top 10 after that pit cycle. Folks like Brandon Richardson up there, Devin Hudgens, Michael Bennett. Well, Bennett was in there before the pit cycle, but he was only about as high as 9th. So some new faces in this group here as you see the 8 of Richardson up ahead with that collision center in Nashville colors on tonight.
And there's Devin Huggy Hudgens in the number 84. Started in 20th. And after this pit cycle, big check up here. I think he's going to lose a spot. He had to downshift. 27 of Orlando is going to go by.
Yeah, the big thing for the 84 is just getting back into the drafting line here. He's alongside Bennett. And they'll slide in behind the 14. So they've all caught up to Caleb Gilbert and company up at the front. We've got about an 11-car line up at the front of the field, maybe make it 12. On board here with car number 10 in line, 53 of Rob Rader.
Just looking at the emote, that's all.
Laps ticking away here. Under 50 laps to go, make it under 45 here from Atlanta, here in the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series. Caleb Gilbert, your leader after green flag pit stops, the first cycle of green flag pit stops here today. And this is about the, well, not just about, this is easily the longest green flag run they've had all day, Bradley.
So looking back here with this second group of cars coming down on the apron here, that's Joe Joya. I think there was a little smoke there, so I think we're going to back this up and see what that was all about. It's be coming out of turn 2 where I saw the smoke, and I think these guys racing side by side at that moment, and this other pack of cars was thundering by. Maybe meet them at the wrong time.
Certainly a possible. Oh boy, Harrison had nowhere to go.
Yeah, he said move.
And just kind of moved him out of the way. Then Joya kind of lost control, caught it, got back on track. Honestly, it was lucky for all parties involved. That wasn't worse.
Well, I know Tyler Harrison probably on the radio for that one, not very happy that Joya stayed up on the racing surface. They were probably 10, 15 miles per hour slower than the group of cars that was thundering towards them, and they were more focused on racing side by side. I mean, there's kind of the undisclosed racing etiquette, that gentleman's rule that, you know, if you get to this certain point, this is the circumstance, this is what you need to do, and it's not so much to
big wreck.
Wall. Joya
big
is
wreck
around,
in the front straight away.
and it looks like Trevor
Erhardt. Boy, we saw Trevor Erhardt go sliding hard into the outside retaining wall there through the quad oval. Let's take another look at this. It's with that same group we were just talking about. They were separated from that main pack of side by side. On board here with the 41, 7. Bit of a bump. The second one gets him loose. Oh, and then the 7 got way out of sorts. Came back down and hit the 41 a third time. The third one, though, was the decisive one.
I don't want to play the blame game here. But here's a push on the 7. That's pushing the 41.
Oh, yeah. And looks like Jacob Sirkovich gets a piece there, Joe Joya, before the 7 gets around. When everything starts getting that stacked up, everyone's just trying to deliver a push to keep the field moving forward. We're seeing a lot of takers for pit road here, I think, because if they pit now, they will be able to make it on fuel the rest of the way.
This could be the last pit stop, should be the last pit stop of the night here from Atlanta. We had a long green flag run. We had green flag pit stops. We've seen a variety of a little bit of everything from this racetrack. This is going to bail out some of these guys, like the 22. He's actually came down pit road. I'm surprised on that he came down. I probably would have stayed out to try to get that lap back. 24 of Nick Alves is going to win the race off of pit road. Jojoya is going to stay out on the racetrack. Kyle Stewart also stays out. These two drivers will be up front. I don't think we've seen the end of it just yet here from Atlanta. But with that, we're going to step aside, take another quick break here on V-Speed. You are watching Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series live, where coverage continues of the Collision Center of Nashville 195 right after this.
Chapman's been around for 32, almost 33 years. It's a great company. We've built it from 10 people not all that long ago to 32 people today. We continue to grow. We're hiring people all the time. If there's one thing that I could do, like before my time is up at Chapman, it is making sure that we built a company that will stand the test of time. And my goal as the current owner of the company, or one of the owners of the company, is to ensure that we can pass the ownership of the organization on to the next generation of people coming up the ranks today. One area of our business where we impact the local communities pretty heavily is the school systems. So we work for school systems all over the northern part of the state of New Jersey. We operate their water systems, their wastewater systems. We do a lot of their permitting and compliance work, and we ensure that the water that the kids drink is clean. We go out and do the sampling to ensure that it's not contaminated. And we also treat the wastewater that's being generated at a lot of these facilities as well before it gets discharged to the environment. So we are supporting the local community through supporting the boards of education and the local school systems.
Here we are back live in Atlanta. The fireworks have continued. We've actually got some movement here in the top spot. 10 car. A little early on the throttle. Excuse me.
Not entirely sure what happened there, but green flag underway. I'm sure they're going to be reviewing that start. They did get stacked back up and ready to go by the time they hit the restart zone, but the moment the pace car peeled off,
there's a lot of black flags from that. Jojoya has a black flag. Caleb Gilbert, a lot of cars through this field that they might have to clear out.
I'm curious to see what happens here. I mean, Kyle Stewart launched like a rocket. As you see, Joy up into the fence. Everyone rushing by on the inside. The 7 drops from inside the top 10 well beyond the top 25 and will continue the plummet back toward the tail end of the field here.
Oh, boy. What a handful there. The 10 of Kyle Stewart, who had that questionable restart, jumped out ahead. And if we could have an opportunity, I might rewind there, but it was a little bit questionable, and I'll show you what we're talking about here. Back it up a little bit more really quickly. You can see right here, he jumps out ahead, and if we back it up even further, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the thought was there. Other than maybe they were so far back from the pace car, they were just trying to get caught up. But, I mean, at that point, the field's stacked up. You just let it be, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But either way, Kyle Stewart continues to run up there in the 4th position. Nearly ended up in the fence. Boy, that was about as much as the 10 could handle there in that push from the 22.
And I mentioned earlier I wasn't sure why the 22. He's actually back on the lead lap, so when we're in that mix, he got back up there. Maybe the way the caution fell or the green flag pit stops, he had stayed out. and it cycled him back on the lead lap. So now he's in the top 10, back to the situation that he had at the start of this race, where he led the most laps in the first stage. He's since been looking from lap 30 to get back up there.
Yeah, he's finally back in contention for the first time since that stage break. He's done a good job to at least give himself an opportunity here as we near in on just over 30 laps to go from Atlanta. But up front, it is Daytona winner Nick Alves. As things are getting 3 wide deeper in the field, that is getting a little bit hairy back around 20th or so. Grant Thorpe on the inside of 3 wide with Picklesheimer and Reed.
Picklesheimer hangs it out wide. We saw this earlier. It didn't work well through the quad. They make it through this time. 91 gets contact, a little net code, and somehow, and there's the 45 in the wall. More 3 wide. Morgan Cook 4 wide.
Things getting 3 wide, multiple rows deep down the back straightaway. Al Lyken's going to fall to the middle. Here comes the 18 of Ryan settled to the inside. The 4 of Bresnock. Everybody trying to capitalize on the scramble. That was some gnarly net code and a little bit of wall contact for the 45, and everyone from about 20th on back had to scramble.
Even more net code. I'm not sure who that was that got into the 45 there. It was right in front of Morgan Cook.
Yeah, we saw it on the onboard. It looks like cars still trying to get sorted out here. The repercussions not quite done unfolding. And things are just getting messy at this point. But we stay green. Under 30 laps to go. 3 wide again. Justin Ritchie all the way up with, oh boy, Lyken's nearly pushed into the wall. Picklesheimer's loose. Oh my goodness, how have they kept it from wrecking?
They're more physical than we've seen all night.
They're quite literally dooring each other down the back straightaway here. Picklesheimer and Ritchie, they're not giving each other an inch. Sirkovich going to try and slip by on the inside.
Still 3 wide.
No room for error as here comes Tyler Harrison. Oh boy, he almost lost it. Things getting incredibly wadded up right now behind these 3. Nowhere to go. Harrison's going to jump high. Picklesheimer still in the middle. Erhardt squeezes through on the bottom. Justice Murphy, who's back on the track here after he was done for the day briefly. He's 5 laps down, but he's trying to get a few more points here. Meanwhile, up front, Caleb Gilbert and Kyle Stewart got that run on the outside. They jump in front of Nick Alves. And some lap traffic of Michael Call. Oh boy. They're making contact. They're bouncing off each other.
Michael Call needs to get out of the way there. I'm sorry. I hate to be biased, but he needs to get out of the way. That is not going to work ever.
Completely stacked up the outside lane. Travis Gilbert going to slide in behind. He falls all the way down to 7th, though, behind the 89.
Oh, man.
We are every way but sideways right now. Cars all over the place.
That is a gutsy call there from the 22. Drop down in front. We got a 91 going sideways.
Reed almost lost it. 4 wide off the corner. What a save from Michael Reed. He's going to lose a ton of track position. Oh, my goodness. What is happening? No matter where you look, this is just a cacophony of mayhem at the moment. And somehow, despite it all, we've stayed green every lap of it.
Okay.
Try to take another look at, oh boy, Joe Choya hammered the wall there.
This is just continued on, lap after lap there. This is actually just before all of the craziness where they fan out. We're watching with Trevor Erhardt and the 5 of Sirkovich. There's a car sideways. Then they all fan out.
The apron, I believe, and then yeah, things getting stacked up 4 wide. And then to your point here, Erhardt nearly ends up there. Man. there. You see Reed
No
flip
lift.
the apron. Yeah, that's where things get out of sorts here. Everyone getting up and around.
Back to the live shot, top spot. Brandon Richardson on the inside. Kevin Orlando Jr. They're 2x2 for the top 20 spots again.
Well, last week at Daytona, the race was sponsored by Coastal Financial and was won by the car wearing Coastal Financial on the livery. That was Nick Alves. This week, the Collision Center in Nashville sponsoring the race, and they're on board with the 8 of Brandon Richardson. Do the sponsors go 2 for 2 to open the season? Brandon Richardson started 27th, but he is the control car right now with just over 20 laps to go. Kevin Orlando Jr., Devin Hudgens, Al Likens, Nick Alves all in the mix here as well. Cars going 3 wide, deeper in the field. Boy, it is getting crazy here in Atlanta.
This just proves here, if you pay enough money and sponsor the race, you can pass tech inspection.
You see someone getting up in the fence. I think that was Reed.
I think a couple guys got in the fence there trying to get around the 10. It's Kyle Stewart that got stuck in the middle there and falls all the way back to 20th position. Remember, he had stayed out during that last caution with the 7 of Joya, and the 10 stayed up there a lot longer, and now finds himself in a similar situation that Joe Joya found himself in very early. It's just handling here. These tires are burning off. That's something that you don't have as much at Talladega or Daytona. You're still wide open here, but you're feeling a little bit of that sensation where that right rear is kicking out, and that's because this racetrack was designed to drive that way. It is steep banking, but these exits shallow out so quickly. It's such a tight exit, and even with 28 degrees, keeping that car underneath of you, when you hit that hump there on the backstretch, it's a handful.
It really is, and as the tires start to fade away here, you're going to see the handling become a bit more tougher to maintain. You'll see cars starting to really start to check up or have bigger runs that they'll try to capitalize on. And as we get closer to the end of this thing, those two things combined are just going to lead to some absolutely monster runs and maybe a couple of questionable decisions along the way. But right now, everyone somehow finding a way to keep it together. I mean, we have just got an absolute monster of a field here on this lead pack. I believe it goes about 30 cars deep right now. And yet the car leading the outside lane is not one of those cars on the lead lap. That is Michael Call, 1 lap down, who's leading this outside group. Brandon Richardson, our race leader, leading the inside.
This is on board with Michael Call. I know I mentioned it earlier. I didn't mean to get anybody upset, any Michael Call fans in the chat, but he is a lap down. We saw that merge into traffic. It could have been a lot worse. It did work out. Man, is that a gutsy call. You got a lot of cars behind you thundering up, 10, 15 miles per hour faster than you are. That could have went wrong in so many ways.
Yeah, it absolutely could have. And now the question mark is the inside lane, about 3-4 cars clear of the outside. Who's going to be the one of this group to try to jump out and make a move? That is what we're going to keep an eye on here. We have teammates up at the front of the field again. The other two racing for freedom teammates. It was Diaz and Gilbert early in the race. This time around, it's Richardson and Hudgens. They all move up high as they get around Christopher Schaefer. That's going to shift some things. They drop back down to the bottom. Alves going to do the same. The 23 down on the apron. Cars trying to snake around Rob Rader through the eye of the needle right now in the middle of 3 wide.
And the 22 is going to try to use this car to his advantage, but doesn't work out. They're pinching each other. Grant Thorpe stuck in the middle here. Another case of lap traffic interfering with this pack, and somehow they continue to sort it out.
Yeah, what it did do, though, was give a big breakaway to the top 5 cars, 6th on back, still trying to get this one sorted out. On board here with Grant Thorpe. In that 3 wide battle, Travis Gilbert gets clear, but Likens there
check
as well with Diaz. About 12 laps to go. Reed with a big push to the 77, right through the middle of the corner. The middle lane getting the most momentum there, as you see. That is, I believe, Likens dropping back down here. Leaves Richie up the high side. Trevor Keith, close call there with the 13. Reed almost in the fence. It is getting, you can tell everyone's really forced. Yeah, this is where they're really forcing the issue right now. 10 laps to go, battling for 10th, and you'd think it's the last lap for the lead.
Meanwhile, in the top 5, it's kind of stagnant. They're all single file. You do have the 24 of Nick Alves on the high line, the 54 just behind that, and then the 53 of Rob Rader. So it looks like some teammates trying to get it going. That's not ideal. Good heads up there from Rob Rader to not run over the 54. That is how quick these checkups are getting because of the tire wear.
Yeah, it's not only how quick they're getting, but with how tightly they're running on the outside, because that's what you need to do to try to use the draft to your advantage if you don't have a long line of cars, is run really tight together. But that also means less reaction time to react to things in front of you. It's working out right now, though. Nick Alves has clawed back up into the battle for third here with Kevin Orlando Jr. as we make our way to 10 laps to go in Atlanta. Brandon Richardson out front, but it's just behind him where things are really becoming a hornet's nest.
Go deeper in this field. These guys are setting back up on this outside line. 55. Starting to get it going with Justin Ritchie, the 57. Haven't named this guy at all today, Dakota Floyd, in 17th, and they're pushing their way to the front towards the top 10.
Yeah, they got a really good run to the quad oval that time, making up a position or two. Ritchie alongside Morgan Cook now in the battle for 14th. They're only a couple of cars away, I think, from getting connected to that outside group up front. Surprised no one in that mid group has been any bit of a taker to try to connect those two lines, because I actually think with enough draft help up there, you would suck right up to that top 10. But right now, they remain separate. Laps continuing to tick off the clock here. 8 laps to go from Atlanta. Richardson still leads. You see one taker there, Picklesheimer, going to jump out.
I don't think it's going to work out. That's too much of a gap. He needed to wait longer. He's going to drop back down.
Yeah, he's just going to connect, though. You see Caleb Gilbert dart to the inside.
They're making moves, though.
They are making moves. Particularly moves from about 3rd through 10th is where a lot of these moves are made. They are having a tough time mounting a challenge to get up to Brandon Richardson right now. Devin Hudgens doing a good job staying on this back bumper, keeping him out in front, and then the lapped car, Chris Schaefer, also in that inside group, is being a little bit of a buffer. As we see some cars peeling down pit road, they weren't going to be able to make it on fuel. Richardson, Rob Rader, Devin Hudgens.
Passing on the apron. I don't know if that's a penalty or not.
Well, he can make the pass, but the question mark is if he was speeding or not. You see him and Travis Gilbert really force it in there. But that also means next time by, it'll be 5 laps to go.
Gilbert.
And with the leaders having to come down pit road. Oh, more takers for pit road. More cars who weren't able to make it. Oh, my goodness. Completely changing. We thought we were going to be able to see him make it all the way on fuel. That was not the case.
Can anyone do it?
Now up there, I mean, he's going to have to save aggressively if he wants a chance here.
This is unbelievable. This throws an entire... Kevin Orlando Jr. and Nick Alves get a black flag. The 22 got a black flag. The 53 also gets a penalty. He's stuck on pit road. So all these drivers that were in the top 10 and now the 77 to finish it off. I don't think anyone can make it on fuel here, Alex.
That is completely changing the complexion of this race. A lot of cars, issues getting on the pit road. Everyone wants this to be the money stop, but too many people shot it in too deep, forced the issue too much. And now only a couple of cars remain on the track. I think Al Likens the leader of that group. Everyone coming down pit road.
So where does this put us? Cameron King cycles out. Does the 8 have it? I don't know who's going to be the leader here. Is it the 8?
As things cycle out, the 8 might be the leader. There's several cars who have not come down pit road yet. Actually, it might be the 77. Grant Thorpe still listed as ahead of these guys.
Not for much
They're
longer,
trying
though.
to
Here
get up
comes
to
the 8.
speed, though. Trying to fly on by. All these guys going to get onto track. Next time by, 3 laps to go. And it is 3 cars up at the front at pace. Brandon Richardson, Devin Hudgens, Kyle Diaz. However, they might be caught by Thorpe and company here with 3 laps to go if they get enough draft help.
It's not a tall order. They're only separated by about 0.7 of a second going into turn 1. 3 laps left, and they are surging towards these top 3. Grant Thorpe, Justin Ritchie, Al Likens. 4th through 6th position. It's actually the 91 in the middle of this, and he's in 28th position. So I said Likens, but it's actually the 91 of Michael Reed who's helping get this pack back shaped up.
2 laps to go here in the Chapman race here at Atlanta. Richardson trying to hold on. He's been the leader here these closing laps. He's got 2 teammates behind. Oh, the yellow's out. Oh, the yellow flag's out.
Big carnage.
Oh, my God. Massive wreck.
57 of Dakota Floyd, the 21 involved of Daniel Holloway. Carter Lenz trying to get this car back corrected.
Sirkovich in there as well. Justice Murphy. You can add the 65 of John Fike. That is heartbreaking for the 8 of Brandon Richardson. Was about a lap and a half away from picking up the win here. And now the entire field is going to get stacked up again.
This is off the back of Morgan Cook. And with that, we were about a mile away from the white flag. Here's the 3 wide that probably creates this situation. 36
big
comes
checkup
down.
from the 36, yeah. Gets turned and then collects several cars. It's a fascinating turn of events. Devastating for those drivers who get caught up in such a late incident. See the nose get completely knocked out of Dakota Floyd's machine. And just piles into it there, that second group. I mean, they were all over the track, nowhere to go, but just massive collision. On board here, I believe, with Cameron King. You see there is just nowhere to go. Tries going down, and everyone went for the same bit of real estate.
With that, Alex, we're in overtime.
That we are. It is overtime here at Atlanta. For those who may not be familiar, when they take the green flag again, it'll be a 2-lap shootout to the finish. If they're able to take the white flag, showing that they have made it to the final lap of the race, the next flag, checkered or caution, will end the race. If they have a incident come out and the yellow comes out before they take the white flag, they will re-rack it and try it one more time. And that is the quick synopsis of how overtime works here in the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series. And this makes this choose cone decision, Bradley, all the more critical, because this is going to be the race-winning or race-losing move where you decide to set yourself up on here for the choose.
Well, the 8 and the 84 have worked really well together here. These final few laps, almost taking the white flag to make it official in regulation. We've seen a variety of everything, and why not? Why not tack on some overtime here, Alex? We saw everything else. We saw green flag pit stops. We've seen cars getting destroyed. We saw a caution right at the stage. We've seen a guy lead the vast majority of the laps on the inside. We've seen 3 wide, almost 4 wide. Atlanta has not disappointed at all here in the Cup Series.
It has been a thrilling one, especially in the back half, and going to be treated here to a little 2-lap shootout action. To close this one off, it'll be Brandon Richardson leading the inside row, Kyle Diaz up high, Devin Hudgens, Grant Thorpe row 2, Justin Ritchie, Caleb Gilbert in that third row. The 8, the 84, and the 26, all teammates. But how much does being a teammate matter when you're racing for the win in overtime? We're about to find out.
Throwing us off a little bit here at 5 laps to go today. We saw pit stops. Everyone in the field not going to make it on fuel. They couldn't stretch to run out any further, and nobody saved enough. I was really surprised that nobody tried that strategy to save 4 or 5 laps to make it to the end.
I have a wonder if it was one of those things where they may have been able to save 2 or 3, but maybe not stretch it all the way to the distance they needed. That's my biggest question mark. But also, even if they had stretched it there, I don't know if it still would have been enough with overtime here as the pace car peels off.
Overtime attempt number 1 from Atlanta, race number 2. Brandon Richardson has his work cut out for him. The 84 of Hudgens on the inside, the 26 on the outside of Kyle Diaz into 1.
Richardson gonna leave that inside lane. 2 cars clear as they make their way down the back straightaway. Richardson leaves Hudgens. Richie and Diaz side by side for third. They're gonna go through 3 and 4 for potentially the second to last time tonight.
Will the white flag come out? It comes off at turn 4. They're 3 wide behind. Grant Thorpe to the outside. But this race is going to be official. White flag in the air, presented by Erhardt Holmes.
Richardson still leaves the inside. Hudgens behind him. Does the 84 step out to make a move here going into turn 3?
Doesn't look like it. He's going to stay glued to that back bumper for now. Here's the move to the high line. Nothing there. Sideways for Richie. Justin Ritchie crashes, and the 8 of Brandon Richardson gets the victory.
Massive collision down the front straightaway. Everybody wrecking into turn 1. I mean, it is an absolute junkyard at the entrance of turn 1 right now, but Brandon Richardson holds on in overtime, got a great push from his teammate Devin Hudgens, and holds on for the victory and Racing for Freedom finishes 1-2 here tonight.
All smiles there from Devin Hudgens, who pushed the 8 car to victory. And Grant Thorpe there on that last lap, somehow, I don't know how, ends up third, even though the 55 of Justin Ritchie's across the whole exit of turn 4.
And you can see the amount of smoke. That's not from the burnout. Richardson hasn't got there yet. That's from the collision that took place with most of the field wrecking just past the checkered. So there's your podium. And one more look at that green-white checkered. Starts here. This is the second to last lap. Diaz and Richie side by side. And I think Diaz gets shuffled out somewhere along the way here.
And Diaz gets kind of moved up the track, maybe a bad bump. That allows Thorpe to the outside. Now, I'm interested in what transpired here. We saw Richie get sideways. I don't know if the 11 got into the back of him or if he lost it on his own. There's quite the gap here.
I think it's the 55 moves up to try to make a move. The 11 carries that run and just tries carrying it below him. 55 goes around.
Wow. And Thorpe still got a piece of that.
Massive chain reaction. About half the field sideways across the line. Take one more look at it here. This is coming to the white flag.
It's probably going to be the best angle that I can come up with coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, I've just seen how crazy this is coming to the line. You'll see a sideways number 55 coming in from the left side of your screen, right about here. And then look at this. Just junking everybody in the field. Also, just look at that back coming to the line. We are, 4 wide there for about 5th on back. They're crediting Tyler Harrison at the moment for 4th, 0.02 of a second ahead of Matt Robinson, who's less than 1/10 of a second ahead of Al Likens, who's less than 1/10 of a second ahead of Caleb Gilbert.
Yeah, it's all within 1/100th of a second for these guys across that line. And Grant Thorpe somehow snuck through all of it. That's complete chaos here from Atlanta. But don't go anywhere. We actually are going to catch up with our race winner, the number 8 of Brandon Richardson. In just a moment here, we're going to try to hunt through and get our post-race. I think, Alex, you've caught up with him, I believe.
That is true. Moving right into the chat here. Hey there, Brandon. This is Alex and Bradley in the booth. You got a copy? Oh.
Sorry about
there
that.
He is.
Oh, you're good. Good. How's it going, boys?
Alex Gagnon caught up.
Oh,
with
okay.
Brandon
Sorry,
Richardson.
I'm
You're
catching
good.
up with them. That's on me. Hey, Brandon. Congratulations on the win, my man. Looked like you had it handled coming with like 3-4 laps to go. You played the pit strategy right at the end of the race, and then the green-white checkered happens. Talk to us a little bit about what the fuel strategy was in that last bit, and then what was going through your mind when you had the re-rack for the green-white checkered.
Yeah, we were honestly deciding on how many gallons to take, and we kind of undershot it, and that's why when the green-white checkered came out, I was in full panic mode. I didn't have a whole lot of fuel. I mean, I ran out coming basically to the finish and to the picture and whatnot, and just really stressful, honestly. But I'm glad we made it. I couldn't have done it without Travis, Kyle, Devin, my whole, team. They are just phenomenal. We executed that pit stop as well as we could, and it turned out. And guys, I'm just freaking stoked. I never thought I'd win.
Well, you have won here tonight, that's for sure. Moving from 27th to 1st, leading 24 laps in the process. Brandon, that green-white checkered, you had a teammate to your outside, you had a teammate behind you. What was the plan there for the green-white checkered? Was it the team going to try to work together to make sure at least one of y'all got the victory lane, or was it, kind of boys have at it?
Yeah, that was the plan. And then because I was just so close on fuel, if I had to drop off for some reason, I was monitoring my fuel, and if I had to drop off, one of them were going to take it. But I guess something happened to Kyle there, but he was kind of trying to block the outside, and Devin was just glued to my bumper, and we pulled it off. So really thankful for those guys. Couldn't have done it without them for sure.
And it was a big help for you, Brandon. I mean, I have not been here for every season of this series, but I have been here since last year. Is this your first victory here in Racing Rev?
Yes, it is my very first one. I mean, I've had some streaky seasons, and I just kind of, Travis has been really talking to me like, hey, man, we got to get it together. Like, you got it in you, stuff like that. And, I mean, we pulled it off, and this is my first win. I mean, I don't even think if I led a lap last season, I'd be shocked. And then last Wednesday, I led a lap or two. And then this week I led some laps. So, I mean, it's coming full circle for sure. I'm just really fucking proud of the team and real thankful for their help. I mean, I can't say that enough. I've already said it like 4 times, but they're constantly just in Discord talking on like what we can do better. I mean, executing. I didn't execute qualifying, but I mean, they have it down, qualifying, pit stops, all that stuff. I mean, they're just great.
Brandon, congrats on win number 1, my man. That is a one that I hope you get to keep with you for a long, long time. You had to work for it here tonight. Anyone you'd like to shout out here this evening?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I mean, you guys put on a great show, helping us out and whatnot. Also, my fiance, she's pretty close. Actually, I think today is her due date. We're having a little girl, so that's going to be coming anytime now. Yeah, I'm stressing about that, obviously.
What
I mean, it's
are
going to
you
be
doing?
fun. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, but I'm just waiting to get the call like mid race, like, hey, we gotta go, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm thankful she puts up with me and lets me do all that, all this fun stuff, and just my team again, and just the whole Racing Revolution League. I've been in a couple leagues, and this is by far the best one. So I'm thankful.
Well, Brandon, it's a pleasure to have you up here in the booth with us. Congratulations on win number 1. Best of luck to you and your fiance, and hope to chat with you again here real soon.
Thank you, guys. We freaking did it. Thanks.
That was race winner Brandon Richardson in the number 8 machine. And Bradley, the sponsor on the car, sponsor of the race, 2 for 2 to open the season. What are the odds?
Yeah, I mean, you had last week with Coastal Financial, this week with Collision Center of Nashville. It doesn't get much better than that. What does get better is that we had a V-Speed first. So V-Speed is live with a race winner who is going to be a dad within the next 12 to 48 hours. Somehow he's still on the racetrack. I would have been dead here, Alex. I don't think that my wife would have allowed that to happen. So that's one hell of a woman to allow him an opportunity. But it did pay off. He did win. He did say, I had a chance. I'm sure this is how the discussion went, that I have a real shot at winning this. So if you could just hold off and let me get to the hospital, I'm going to go out here and win this thing. And it's all coming together. This might be the last time he's going to be a dad. This might be the last chance he gets to come out and win a race without any kind of distraction.
Yeah, potentially. So a big win for Brandon Richardson and a big moment coming up in his near future as well.
Congratulations to him on both becoming a father and winning his first race here in Racing Revolution. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to round up the rest of your top 3 final race results here from Atlanta Motor Speedway. You are watching the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series. Post-race coverage continues right after this.
Chapman's been around for 32, almost 33 years. It's a great company. We've built it from 10 people not all that long ago to 32 people today. We continue to grow. We're hiring people all the time. If there's one thing that I could do, like before my time is up at Chapman, it is making sure that we built a company that will stand the test of time. And my goal as the current owner of the company, or one of the owners of the company, is to ensure that we can pass the ownership of the organization on to the next generation of people coming up the ranks today. One area of our business where we impact the local communities pretty heavily is the school systems. So we work for school systems all over the northern part of the state of New Jersey. We operate their water systems, their wastewater systems. We do a lot of their permitting and compliance work, and we ensure that the water that the kids drink is clean. We go out and do the sampling to ensure that it's not contaminated. And we also treat the wastewater that's being generated at a lot of these facilities as well before it gets discharged to the environment. So we are supporting the local community through supporting the boards of education and the local school systems.
Back here live from Atlanta. Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series has concluded in overtime. 134 laps here today of the scheduled 130. Brandon Richardson gets the victory. We had a variety of everything here today, from green flag pit stops, fuel strategy, 6 cautions, 20 lead changes, a pole sitter that led a lot of the first stage, a caution just before that break, a variety of different drivers up front, but ultimately a first-time winner who's becoming a dad. We saw all of it here tonight in Hampton, Georgia. Devin Hudgens, a teammate, pushing him to the victory. Grant Thorpe, who had contact across the quad oval, he's able to sneak by, and then it's less than 1/100th of a second between these next 4 drivers. Tyler Harrison, Matt Robinson, Al Likens, Caleb Gilbert, all within that margin of victory. Well, not victory, but position from 4th to 7th. Trevor Keith, Michael Bennett, and Grant Turner round out the top 10. I got all of that out and off my chest.
Back in 11th, it's Jeremy Burns tonight. Trevor Erhardt finishing 12th. Christian Bresnock up 21 spots to 13th. No, that math's not right. Never mind. Ignore that. Parker Johnson finishing 14th tonight in the 48 machine. Dustin Reinsettle 15th. Morgan Cook finishing 16th tonight, just ahead of Kyle Diaz. Chris Nail finishing 18th. John Fike in 19th. And Carter Linz rounds out your top 20.
It's 29 positions gained there for Bennett, I believe is what you were going for.
Math is always a tough time up here.
Yeah. Moving on to the next 10, we've got the number 1 of Sam Taylor finishing 21st. Dakota Floyd 22nd. You saw that big wreck there towards the end of this race. It took a lot of these guys out, had a heavy damage. Daniel Holloway finishes 23rd. Kyle Stewart 24th. Cameron King 25th. Justin Ritchie was on the outside coming out of turn 4, gets turned, ends up the last car in the lead lap. Then you have Jackson McGeorge, Dylan Picklesheimer, Michael Reed, and Rob Rader. A little out of character here, but the 53, 30th position.
Back at the rest of the field here, Kevin Orlando Jr. 31st, Nick Alves 32nd, Christopher Schaefer, Joe Joya, and Michael Call 33rd through 5th. The rest of the field tonight being Travis Gilbert, Jacob Sirkovich, Christopher Berger, Justice Murphy, and Alex Forget-Berube.
Alex Forget out of this race very, very early here tonight. He ends up being 22 laps down to finish this race out. But with that, we have caught up with your second place finisher. It is Devin Diaper Hudgens. And Devin, I got to say, that is a true teammate. Everyone here in the broadcast witnessed how you stuck with your teammate and gave us one of the probably the most memorable interviews that we've ever had here on V-Speed. Was not aware that you had, I don't know if there's some Monopoly card out there that you're allowed to race while your wife's in labor, but maybe you could fill us in on how that works.
Well, I don't know how that's gonna work out. Hopefully he can keep on through it while his soon to be baby comes
you're
out.
questioning it too. You're trying to figure this out because he said that she went to the hospital and he won his first race. So I think that's the only thing he goes back with was, "Thank you, honey. I'll quit iRacing from now on." Well, outside of that, Devin, you pushed him up there, and it wasn't just there in that final restart and overtime. You were glued to that bumper after pit stops, and you guys were about 5 laps short of making it. That was a complete throw-off from what we thought. You guys had come down pit road there with about, I think, 40 or so to go, and somehow there wasn't enough fuel in these cars. Just chaos there at the end.
That is right. I think we were about 5 laps short in the last pit stop, and we were talking, saying we're not going to make it, and we need fuel. So we're debating on how much fuel to put in, and B-Rich had it by the skin of his teeth. He ran out pretty much coming to the start-finish line, coasting back to the checkers.
Well, he used that 1/10 of fuel with the 84 pushing him across that line. That's all he needed. And you guys, proper teammates here, get the top 2 spots. Devin, congratulations on this phenomenal finish. Anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my teammates, the Racing for Freedom team. If it wasn't for Travis and Kyle letting me practice and be along and ride with them, I wouldn't have gotten faster and honed in my skills better and put on a good show like I did today. I would also like to thank Chapman and uh, Erhardt Homes and all the other league sponsors that help provide this league with good video with y'all with V Speed, and I'm I appreciate my dad watching too. I know he watches and he's pretty much my number one fan, so I got to shout him out. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be able to push an old friend to his first victory in a league that he said he'd never thought he'd win at. So I'm happy for him and I'm happy for the team.
Harry Hudgens said that's how you be a good teammate in the chat. So he made sure to give you credit where credit's due. Congratulations on this top 3 and having that opportunity to get a victory for the 8 car. We'll see you next week at COTA.
Yes, sir.
Evan Hudgens, second place here tonight from Atlanta as we move on to our third place interview. And I think Alex Gagnon has caught up with Grant Thorpe.
Hey there, Grant, you got a copy?
I gotcha.
I'll tell you what, you had the opportunity to go up and down through the field here tonight, got caught up in a little bit of stuff, rallied when it mattered most, and then was able to capitalize on the misfortune of others a little bit here to move up into that podium spot at the end. Talk to us a little bit about your night, and particularly that green-white checkered.
Yeah, just kind of did my normal ride around until the very end, try to save the faster pair. Fortunately, didn't have to use it tonight, which is pretty unusual. But just kind of hung out to that last pit cycle. I was able to cycle out in 4th, and I was really hoping that I was going to go green until the end. I had a teammate of mine who was unfortunately a lap down due to some issues on an earlier pit cycle, got stuck a lap down. But so he was pretty well committed to me, had no risk of him kind of jumping out, so he was going to push me to the end. I thought we had a run on him coming to take the 2 to go, and then that caution came out, forcing the green-white checkered. And after that, it's just kind of pick a lane and push as hard as you can and hope you don't get cleaned out. Made a bad move trying to get around. I think it was Diaz there late. And just never really panned out for me. But I'll take a top 3. Always good.
Yeah, good points day, if nothing else, especially starting way back in the field there in 29th. Gained 26 spots or so today to get up into that podium mix. To that point, right before the green-white checkered, it looked like you were really closing in. They only had about 2 or 3 cars in that lead group, and y'all were coming with a vengeance. If it stayed green, I got to imagine that you would have been able to get up there and make something happen, but much like with super speedway style racing, sometimes that's just the way it shakes out. Are you looking forward to next week at COTA being on even though it's the road course, being on a track that's slightly less draft dependent?
Oh, for sure. I feel like I'm pretty decent at road courses. Obviously, Jeremy Burns, he's kind of the specialist here in the league, so he's tough to beat. So kind of like chalking that one up as a loss to him, unless something happens, and then really just maximize the day. Try not to make mistakes. A lot of people will make a bunch of mistakes on the road course, off tracks, slowdowns and whatnot. So really is minimize mistakes and just maximize the day to the best of my ability. And then we can get to some more of the real racetracks after that. Some more of the normal NASCAR ovals and stuff. Love the road courses and super speedways, but I'm ready to get back to the bread and butter of the NASCAR schedule.
Yeah, we'll be getting there soon enough, that's for sure. But at least through this part of the schedule, you were able to pull some decent points from tonight. Grant, anyone you'd like to shout out here this evening?
Just my teammates back at TriStar. Unfortunate break during the pit cycle. I got a couple of them caught a lap down. Wish we could have gotten them some better finishes, but stuff like that happens. Just gotta keep your head up. Try to maximize each and every week. It's a long season, so we'll go into next week. Heads up, try to maximize that day. And of course, you guys, you always do such a great job broadcasting. I appreciate you guys supporting the league the way you do, and just keep on rolling. Off to COTA.
Alrighty. Well, Grant, thank you so much for dropping by. Congrats on the podium finish, and best of luck next week at Circuit of the Americas.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You as well. And that is third place finisher tonight, driver of the 77, Grant Thorpe, who brought it home P3 after that late contact between Justin Ritchie and Matt Robinson.
Well, we've talked about it a few times. We have concluded here from Atlanta and one of the most memorable races in season number 5. We're only 2 races in. We still got plenty of racing left to be done as we move on to our next setting. That is going to be COTA. As you mentioned before, race number 3 up next. We're going to turn left and right. March 5th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, week number 3 of the Chapman Environmental Services Cup Series. Hope you can tune in. If you're not subscribed, and I know 33% of you are not, this is the perfect opportunity. While this race is live, you'll get notifications every time we go green flag racing here on V-Speed. And plenty of other racing left to be done. We've got Saturday Night Racing League and Misfits Touring Series this weekend, as well as Apex Sim Racing on Sunday. Any final thoughts here, Alex, before we let them go?
Well, we had an absolutely insane finish last week at Daytona. We had a good finish and an absolutely incredible interview here tonight from Atlanta. Can only wonder what crazy and incredible thing we have in store next week at Dakota with the way this season's kicked off.
Again, that's March 5th, 8:30 p.m. Hope you can tune in. For everybody at Racing Revolution, Chapman Environmental Services, the sponsor of tonight's race. You are watching the Collision Center of Nashville, 195 from Atlanta. More racing coverage next week. Until then, stay tracking, everybody.